So this conversation really is a conversation with Shweea. Shweea, thank you very much for taking the time out to agreeing to have this conversation. As I mentioned to you offline, it was just more to provide a better understanding of the subject matter, which we're going to go into in detail, and also just give us an overview of yourself and some of the challenges and the things that you've learned over a period of time. I'll start off with by you introducing yourself, telling us about yourself, who you are, and also, in general, you can go into the story, your story as well.
Okay, cool. So my name is Shweea. I live here in London. I'm someone who has danced most of their life. I used to perform, and then for the last 10 years I've been teaching, or more than 10 years. Had a program for teaching kids in primary schools, teaching dance, teaching yoga, teaching mindfulness. And so always been quite fit and healthy, vegetarian all my life. And out of the blue, in October 2018, I had a diagnosis of ovarian cancer, advanced staged ovarian cancer. And 2 weeks later, I was in hospital on the operation table, which was followed by chemotherapy for 6 rounds. And that's where I thought my journey would end with cancer. So I guess that's the introduction. And there's a lot more to say, a lot more to go ahead with, but that's the introduction.
You've been a vegetarian all your life. You've been a teacher. Explain to us what ovarian cancer is, first of all. And then go into, were there any symptoms that you saw during this period of time leading up to that?
I can only say that the symptoms I can see on reflection. Mm-hmm. So at the time, I thought I was just getting older.
Okay.
So I am now 45. I was diagnosed at 43. And I had always been told, I'm slim, I've been a dancer, and everyone's like, don't worry, after your 40s, you're going to put on weight. Everyone puts on weight and they can't lose it. And I had started to put on a bit of weight around my waist. And I had noticed that it just wasn't really going down. And I thought, oh, everybody was right. And then there were things like my hair became a bit wiry and there was a lot more shedding in the shower than normal. And again, people, when you get older, that your hair changes texture. That's what happened. I became a little bit stiffer toward the closer I got to going when I went to the doctor, I was feeling more stiff. And there was some exercises that I noticed when I was teaching that I just couldn't do. And I would stop and I'd say to the kids, carry on, I'm watching. And I'd just kind of slide it out. But what I noticed was that actually I'd got stiffer in my back. I couldn't touch my toes anymore. And when I was doing jumping movements, I was holding my belly. And most of the time I didn't really go to the doctor. I didn't really have any reason to go to the doctor. But there's another little story to this. A very good friend of mine 6 weeks earlier had phoned me and she said, I'm at the hospital and I don't think they're taking me seriously. Can you come in and just be with me? Talk to the doctors with me and stuff like that. And she had gone in with a severe pain in her side. And basically, cut a long story short, we ended up in a small room and they ended up telling my friend that she had pancreatic cancer and that she did not, and they gave her a prognosis of 3 to 6 months to live. And that was a massive shock. And it really, obviously, it had an impact on me and it had obviously a massive effect on my friend. And from there, I went into researching a lot about cancer and how can she outlive her prognosis? What can she do to make herself, give herself the best opportunities? And because I was supporting my friend through this in any way that I could, that was the reason I decided to be vigilant and go to the doctors. So I thank my friend 1,000 times over. Within those very sad circumstances, it was because of that I was like, should we just be vigilant and go to the doctors? Something doesn't feel quite right. Yeah.
First of all, what's ovarian cancer? When did you actually find out that you had ovarian cancer? What was that process like?
It's a weird process because the GP took bloods, and he phoned me when the results came through, and asked me to come in straight away. And I was at work and work let me leave early and go to the doctors. And he said, yeah, your blood results shows a protein called CA125, which is extremely high. And this indicates cancer. And he also examined my stomach, which was, like I said, I had put on weight, but by this time had extended. I looked about 5 months pregnant. And he also, did an examination, like an internal examination. And he said, you have a tumor. And it's about the size of I can't remember what he said, about a cricket ball, which was why it was hurting when I was jumping up and down and stuff. And he said, we need to do some scans. And he said, it's a false negative because I'm a GP. So without, the scans and everything, my diagnosis is that it's ovarian cancer, but without the scans, it's not a proper diagnosis yet. So the scans came through extremely quickly, and that's why, like 2 weeks later, I was in the hospital. But even as I was going into the operation table, they can only confirm they're treating me for advanced stage ovarian cancer, but they can only confirm it once they've got a biopsy, which they could only do once they had done the operation. So it's only when I woke up from the surgery that they confirmed it was ovarian cancer, like 100%.
Okay. So when you say advanced stage, what does that actually mean for those of us that don't know? What are the different stages to this, or?
Yeah, so they say that ovarian cancer, because the symptoms are so vague, is kind of like the silent killer, as they say. But if it was caught earlier, the tumor would be smaller. It would be more in one location, less chance, be easier to control. But as it's so advanced, it was very big. It had taken over, the tumors had taken over my ovaries and some other areas of the abdomen as well.
Oh.
So the operation was, yeah.
So at this stage, you're spread, you've gone from a small tumor to something like a tennis ball, and you're spread across aspects of your body and stuff. Yeah.
That's what I understand, yeah. Like at the time, you're not really you're just kind of in shock. You're not really understanding everything, which is why it's always important to have someone with you.
And when you were going through this, what was the support like? Or did you said when your friend was going through it, you were there for her. Did you have support around you, or how did that work?
So in the beginning, when with the GP, I didn't tell anyone at first because I was still like, well, like he said, it's a tumor, but a tumor can be benign as well. But then, of course, there was the blood marker. But I still thought, well, I don't know yet. And when I know, I'll tell family. That's when I will tell my family. And that kind of gave me 2 weeks to get my own headspace to deal with it. Eventually, I told two of my very close friends, and they were the ones who came with me when I got the scan results. One held my hand and the other one took notes. So that was amazing. And then I had to go and tell my family. And I think that's the hardest thing, or that was the hardest thing ever.
And how were they? Because one of the things I want to get back to us at a later stage is just understanding from a point of view is that whether it's cancer or green or depression or mental health in general, is how do people that are close to you provide the type of support that is needed in those times without really them understanding the illness as such? So in those situations, when you're reaching out to your family, did you have any expectations? And looking back, is there things that people that are close to you can do to help people in those situations?
There's many levels to this because at first, the person who has cancer, like in my case, myself, has to deal with that, and they have to deal with what it could mean, as in death. And then your family are going to be extremely impacted because I'm a sister, I'm a daughter. So obviously parents losing their child before them is not, it's not the natural way of things. A sister to live without, who you've grown up with. And then, so it's, they get impacted and there's a massive shock. And actually my sister's first reaction was like, I don't believe it. It can't be true. Like, you're the most healthiest, fittest person I know. How is this happening? We need to get a second opinion. And they were not part of the process of the test. I hadn't brought them in yet on that part. So it was a massive shock. There was no kind of gentle easing and of maybe yes, maybe no. Oh, let me get used to this idea. It was just, so we did get a second opinion. And that actually helped, I think. My mum and my sister were present at that. Them hear it from the doctor, from the surgeon, So I think that kind of actually helped. That process actually did help them. And they're in shock, but they're also like moving into, okay, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? Mode as well. I think it's important to have someone who can have a clear head.
Hmm.
And family obviously are depending, on different personalities. Some people are going to be more emotional, some people are going to be more practical, some people are going to be, but all of that means there's a whole flurry. And that's where I was actually grateful that I had those 2 weeks to create my own headspace and create and choose the mindset that I'm going to go forward with.
Okay. That helped you in the conversations that you could have with your family, and also because you can, from what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can understand they were very emotionally invested in making sure that you got better,
Yeah.
and that brought about different views and requirements, really, I'm thinking.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, so I had decided that cancer does not have to mean death. We put meaning to words, and then those words scare us.
Yeah.
And when you say cancer to everyone, the first, my friends, my family, my loved ones, the first thing they do is cry, basically. And then as the patient, you're the person who has to then comfort. But I also, so I decided that the meaning we put to words,
Mm.
cancer does not have to mean death. I decided to reframe it and have it as it's a journey, it's an adventure, it's a soul adventure. Any kind of illness that makes you stop your life is an opportunity to reflect on your life.
Where does that mindset, where's that mindset derived from? Because it seems like in that moment you went into a different gear to say, because some people might look at the situation and say this is really fatal and that could take them in a different direction. But clearly your mindset took you in a different direction. I just wonder, where did that stem from?
So there was a few different elements. So like I said, my friend had been diagnosed with cancer 6 weeks earlier. And in that moment, I had done a lot of research, and I had also found people through me and through other friends that some I knew and some I didn't know, but were very kind to talk to me. People who had survived their cancer diagnosis. I had spoken to them and had phone conversations so that I could relay that information to my friend and give her hope. And then obviously 6 weeks later, all of that information was directly relevant to myself. So that was one element. Another element is teaching kids dance. And, when you're teaching kids, you're teaching resilience, and especially because I was teaching yoga and mindfulness as well. So with the yoga, there's all of that, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. And so in this moment, I had to be extremely kind to myself, and, whatever emotions came up for myself, just accept them. And teaching mindfulness, we can talk about that a bit later, gave me a toolkit to use. And the other thing was that I had been doing a self-development course, which has a lot of distinctions and a lot of toolkits. And one of those was like, what meaning do we put to things, to words, to, circumstances? Yeah.
So just unpicking some of the things you just mentioned there, you went through. So, for example, speaking to other people because your friend was going through it. How did you arrange that practically? What steps did you take to reach out to other people? Was there a particular site that you found useful? Was there a particular organization you found useful? How did that come about?
At that point in time, there wasn't a particular site or anything. It was more to do with, so like I just mentioned, I was on this course, like a self-development course.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, there was a wide community of people. And I had met one or two people that were on a course with me that I hadn't necessarily spoken to, but because we had been on the same course, it was easy just for me to reach out to them and say, hey, I heard your story and I would love to talk more about it with you because my friend has just been diagnosed. And they were just fully open to talking about it. And then they recommended someone else, and then a couple of other people recommended someone else. So I spoke to about 4 people.
And also the part of, you mentioned being kind to yourself because of the work that you're doing around yoga, and you mentioned about resilience. What does the resilience part give you that you think this is very important?
Well, yeah, because I was teaching kids, I was just like, Shweea, you've got to walk your talk now. You can't just preach and not do it for yourself. So I think the resilience just gets me up every morning. I'm just like, it's just that keep going, and keep believing, keep having faith, keep in the fact that I can choose to live the life that I want to live. Until I've always wanted to live. I always said I was going to live to 100 ever since I was a kid, because I'm a curious person. I love to see what happens in the world. I was like, imagine living to 100, a span of 100 years, so much can happen. So I was like, okay, well, I can still live to 100. It's okay. This is just going to be a moment in time where I look back on and where I've learned a lot. But So I guess that's like the resilience is just to keep being kind to yourself, keep going, keep, whatever setbacks come, whatever. The world of oncology will have their statistics, but there is a whole other world of people who do survive those statistics. And, so I can choose where to put my belief and my faith and, yeah.
And when you're talking about being kind to yourself, is that what I'm just trying to visualize that? How does that look like? Is it mean, you take time to eat more healthy or exercise? How does that spell? How do you put that together into something more practical and tangible?
Yeah, so many different ways, I think. And I think, like you just said, eating healthily. So yeah, being kind to yourself. In my case, I chose to look at my diet, and through the reading of, there's lots of resources out there about eating for cancer. So, which is very different from what the world of oncology will tell you about. So you have to do your own research and decide for yourself. So it is being kind to myself was choosing to eat healthily, and also like, I think when I'm, these are very hard times and I would still argue with my family or still have an argument with my sister.
Yeah.
Like, how am I arguing with her when I could possibly not be here in a few months? This is not, and I'd get upset and angry with myself for reacting. But the people that are closest to you are going to be the ones that are also going to be, at the end of any emotions that you have. So then I'd have to be kind to myself, say, no, it's okay. You're allowed to have these emotions. Okay. And, don't beat yourself up about it. Whereas in the past, I probably, I would have done. And now and it means that you let go of things a lot quicker. I think it's with emotional stuff, is catching your emotions or catching your thoughts and then just being kind and say, it's okay.
I want to bring this back in terms of treatment. You mentioned that earlier. When the oncologist was speaking to you about it, or the consultant was speaking to you about it, did they give an indication of what possible treatments? Did they understand what was actually happening and how they can treat it? Or is that still being understood?
So cancer is a massive world of research because there is no cure for cancer. So as you enter into the world of cancer, I thought that you become aware that actually there's a lot of I don't know in the world of oncology. So yeah, I thought, okay, I'm going to have an operation. The first operation was extremely successful. It was very clean. They managed to remove all visible disease, and then it was followed by 6 rounds of chemotherapy and there's lots of different types of chemotherapy. So with this chemotherapy, yes, I lost my hair, and there's a whole load of side effects with that. But I thought that at the end of that chemotherapy, that would be it. I would be back I told work, I was like, I'll be back in the summer term. Don't worry, and they were like, yeah, we got your job open for you. And they were very supportive in that way. And then it just didn't stop there. Like, I thought that would be at the end of it, even though at the end of it, I was no evidence of disease. So there's no thing of like, you're cured from cancer, that's it, done. No, it's the language is there's no evidence of disease. And you're like, okay, what does that mean? But like, it just means that we can't see it on the scans, but the chemo has worked mostly, but with ovarian cancer, there's a high rate of relapse, of return.
It almost sounds like in those moments, what you seek more is real clarity about what's going on, real answers to questions about, am I going to be cured? Is that right? Is that,
yeah, 100%, of course. And then, but then they would, even if you are cured, let's say that you come to the end of it and there's no evidence of disease, with cancer for the next 5 years, you will be checked upon. You would go in every, depending on your condition, every 3 months or whatever it is, for them to check on your bloods and see how you're doing. And in my case, because it was ovarian cancer and they know very little about it, and in my case, it's not genetic, they presented a trial to me. So this is the world of cancer. There's lots and lots of trials to find a cure or to find maintenance drugs to keep you. So some people may have a cancer and then they're on a maintenance drug for the next 10 years or 5 years. And in my case, there was a trial for the next hope for ovarian cancer. Mm-hmm. And it's a double-blind trial. So then so I agreed to go on it because there was a time restraint. You have to make a decision now, otherwise you won't be able to do it. It's a 2-year-long trial. We think that these are it's the last trial of, there's a whole like this is the third trial in this medicine, so it will go on the market after that if it's successful. So, and we think it's going to be successful. So we think this is your best hope. So yes, I did the trial, but it meant that I was going into hospital all of the time on a weekly basis. Mm-hmm. And in my case, even though I was on the drugs in the trial, I had a relapse within 6 months.
A couple of things you said there. You talked about double-blind trial. What does that actually mean? And when you say relapse, what information did they have to say now you relapse? What were they seeing?
Okay, so the double-blind trial means that I don't know if I'm on the drug.
You could have a placebo or something.
Yeah, and the doctor doesn't know if I'm on the drug. So in this trial, there was 2 drugs they were trialing. So it could be one drug, like drug A, drug B, placebo, or the combination of both drugs.
Oh.
But when I was unblinded. We were all unblinded when I came off the trial, and it was revealed that I was on the combination of both drugs.
Is that the best place? Is that the record? In terms of if they were to recommend this and this was successful, that's what they'll say.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one positive that came out of this was that they knew that those drugs would not be the next drugs that they would put me on. Because now it's just a game of, okay, what are we going to do for you? We could try this, or we could try that, or we can try this. Because now they've come to we've come to the edge of our knowledge of ovarian cancer. You have come to the edge of our knowledge of ovarian cancer. So we think this might be the best thing for you to go to next.
So it's ruling out all these possibilities and trying to eliminate it to something more that's more effective that actually provides the treatment.
In their case, what they're doing is trying to extend my life by however many months or year or something until a new trial comes up.
I understand. Okay.
That would then provide something that would be effective for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now that, in terms of what's next for them, where are you at this stage in terms of your conversation with the consultants and the oncologists?
So yes. So since the trial, I had a second surgery, which was not successful, and I would have been on a second round of chemotherapy with another drug that was working to stabilize my condition for the last 5-6 months. And now it started to play. My bloods, we could see it started to play up and down a little bit. So now they've recommended that I start a new course of chemotherapy, a different type of chemotherapy. So I started that. And so that's where I'm at the moment. So basically it's, just trying out different chemotherapy drugs to attack the cancer cells from a different angle. Because cancer cells are very clever and they get used to some of the drugs.
How you found the support that you get from your doctor, your consultants? Have they been giving you the information you need based, I know there's a limited understanding of ovarian cancer and they're trialing new treatments, but in terms of other support around that, do you feel that you getting the information and the support that you need, and what does that look like as well for those who might be going through this or have friends or family who are going through this, just to understand a little bit better? It
really depends on the oncologist. So because I've been through 3 rounds of chemo, I've had 3 different teams of oncologists at different hospitals. So in my experience, it just depends on how the doctor likes to convey information, because I feel like they don't want to necessarily give you false
hope
or false information. So some are very direct, and then others are willing to have a longer conversation. And I don't know, it's more, sometimes it just feels like they're just administering the medicine and they know that what they think is going to work. So that's just that, and that's it. So I don't really seek much information it depends on their personality. So yeah.
I understand. And then, so where do you go then to give you the additional, to bridge that gap between what you really want to know and what you're being told? How would you go find, where
Yeah.
do you, what resources
Actually,
do you turn
so
to?
yeah, so you have the oncologist who administers, authorizes the medication, and then you have a CNS nurse. I can't remember what CNS stands for, but basically that's the person that you can talk to and ask more questions for, and they're going to take more time with you and direct you to websites and stuff. So most of the information that you need to know will be on like the Cancer Research website and Macmillan website. And in in the hospitals, they'll often have a Macmillan pod, and that's where you can also go to and ask questions. And they're always very, very lovely and very helpful there, like really nice. They'll sit you down, they'll make a cup of tea, they'll have biscuits and cake. But I'm on no sugar, so I never eat them. And yeah, so those are kind of places like that will help you with information. And then Macmillan Pods will also give you more information to other people to help you with hair loss, to help you with, there's a look, feel good. I haven't actually done that either, like where you get to do like makeup and stuff like that to feel good. And this lady at the Macmillan Pods, she was someone who said to me, you know what, I know someone here who has lived with ovarian cancer for 20 years. And
Oh, wow,
this
that's
was suddenly like a big revelation, because it was like, oh, you live with it, then it's like a chronic disease rather than a death sentence.
amazing.
And then it's like, oh, I've been waiting to at the end of the chemo for it to be gone. But actually, what I'm realizing, or now my experience has been, is that actually this is it. I'm living with chemotherapy. I'm living with the cancer. And now I'm like, oh, okay, now I've got to find a way to live my life in this situation rather than waiting for it to be over and planning my life. Like when it's over, I'll be doing this. When it's over, I'll be doing that. Actually. So this is where at the stage I'm at the moment, kind of like working out like, oh, how do I want to visualize my life? Yeah.
Have you spoken to the person that she said that has been living it for 20 years? It'd be interesting to, I don't know if it's for you, but just what are they doing to manage this?
Well, I haven't actually. I think I have steered clear of joining cancer groups. I mean, this what you've said is not what you've said, because I wanted to create like basically, I guess I was shielding my own energy. Like I didn't want to get into what I thought or feel could be somewhere quite sad, like where other people may feel that they are dying. But now, like as you're saying, like actually maybe there's the point to talk to someone who is living with it and has lived with it and has survived it and has all that experience of living with it for 20 years. She would be an amazing person to speak to, of course. Yeah.
And it's actually interesting what you're saying about your energy, because it's almost like there is something there about preserving your energy and putting yourself in a kind of positive mindset. Is that have I understood that correctly?
Yeah. So when I went into hospital the very first time, like I said, I didn't put meaning to the word cancer. I didn't put death to that meaning. I put just another phase of my life, just an adventure, actually I called it a rebirth because it was ovarian cancer, and actually the operation I had was a full hysterectomy as well. So I just called it my own rebirth. And alongside that, I have used a lot of visualization whilst I was in hospital, which is the first time I've ever been in hospital. I came out of the operation and I was flat on my back. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything because I had such a massive scar down the front of my torso. And so I was in the ward and I could hear other people crying in the bed next to me. I could hear in the nighttime, I heard wailing. I could hear people panicking, people having diarrhea, people vomiting. And I was just like, oh my God, is this what I've got to look forward to? And I was like, no. And I sent a text to my friends and my family and I said, I want you to relate to me as Shweea, Princess of Power. And I don't know if you or your listeners out there know He-Man, but He-Man had a sister. It's a cartoon character, by the way.
Yeah, I'm thinking,
yeah. And yeah, she had
Grayskull.
Exactly. Power of Grayskull. And she would hold up a sword above her head and like these like she would get connected to the universe, and then she would be able to use her sword to dispel energy balls that her enemies would throw at her. And I just was lying in bed, so I just visualized myself as Shweea holding her sword, and I would just visualize myself batting away the crying, batting away the diarrhea, batting away that vomiting, batting away, like just batting all of these things away. And I'm like, that doesn't have to be me.
Yeah.
I don't have to go the same way. Like my experience can be the experience that I choose it to be.
That's a very powerful thing to say to yourself, especially considering the circumstances you're finding yourself at that time.
I found it much easier to do that than to go. I found it much easier. Yeah, I found it actually it just came to me naturally, I think, because of the teaching kids mindfulness, and obviously that's meditation and visualization, and the self-development course that I had been on. I literally had just finished a leadership program with this course, so I was in peak state. I was like the best time ever to get this type of diagnosis, if I was ever going to get if I was ever going to get this diagnosis. So
it's interesting. You mentioned two scenarios. It's almost like those two scenarios are helping you in the situation that you find yourself. For example, you talked about you and your friend earlier on, you going to support her only to find that the same things that you were learning, you're utilizing that. And then this course, which was helping you I'm sure it covers many things, and it'll be good to go into that course to see some of the key learnings from that. But again, using that, and also maybe more than two things, also using the stuff that you're teaching, that you're utilizing with the kids, and the visualization aspect of it. All these things are kind of coming together, helping you in the situation.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like there's a lot of synchronicity there. Like another thing, the first time that I went to have chemo, I still couldn't walk properly because of the scarring and healing from the operation. So I was holding my stomach as I walked out to get an Uber to go to the hospital. And the Uber driver obviously knew he was taking me to the hospital. And he was very direct. I hadn't really spoken to many people yet at this point, but he was like, "Oh, that's a very, very good hospital you're going to. Is it, what was your operation for?" I was like, cancer. He's like, "Oh, okay. Oh, I had an operation. I nearly died, but they operated for me for cancer, but actually when they opened me up, it wasn't cancer, it was something else. And then all the surgeons refused to touch me because it was too dangerous, too risky to do another operation, but I was going to die from the disease that he had." And then he said, only one surgeon would work on me. And he actually he said, "This is a risk. You could die, but you're not going to die in my hands. If you want to sign this paper, you sign it and we do the operation." And he said, of course I did it. And I owe my life to this surgeon. And he said the surgeon's name. And it turned out to be the same surgeon that I had.
Wow. Small world.
Yeah, and he actually stopped the car and he showed me the letter to prove to me that it was the same surgeon that we were talking about. And so I took that as a sign, because that was my very first chemo, and I was scared of my first chemo because I've never had chemo before. It's a scary thing to go and do. But I took that as a sign as well. So like talking about all these things that come together, synchronicity, I was like, yeah. And
the other thing is about, talked about how comfortable, because when you were saying he was asking you why you were at the hospital and what happened, you seemed quite hesitant at the beginning, if I've understood that correctly. How comfortable are you talking about ovarian cancer and what's happening to you? Is it something you're still uncomfortable talking about, or
what? So the other amazing thing that I think has, like, you keep talking about support, like, and I haven't mentioned it yet because it's the biggest thing, is family and friends. Like, I feel emotional talking about it now. Like, the amount of support that I've had from family and friends, I feel so, so blessed, and I feel so loved. Sorry, I can't remember your question because I just got really emotional there.
No, that's fine. I'll come back to that, actually. Family support is one of the things I wanted to cover later. But one thing I wanted to just come back to just pick up on when you were talking about how comfortable you were talking about the subject to
Yeah.
other. At the beginning it sounded like you weren't comfortable, but now would you say you're more comfortable talking to people, or the areas of the subject that you're not comfortable talking about?
I'm comfortable talking about it because that was why I brought in my family and friends, because I created a support group between them, with them, so I think I got to talk about it with them first, with close friends and family, and then I felt like actually this is something that ovarian cancer. I'm happy to talk about it because I think it's important for other people to know about it and to understand the symptoms because they're so vague. So that's why I'm happy to talk about it, because I think it's really important that others understand. Yeah, and who knows? Like, okay, I am choosing to live to 100, and if I don't live to 100 and I, whatever, like, why not just talk about it? Why not let other people know? I think it's important that other people get to understand and learn.
Yeah, from my perspective, and understanding and learning is never a bad thing. And if it helps that we can provide a more positive contribution to someone's experience, then, to me, that is a big plus. Just one other thing I just wanted to touch upon is that it's more about understanding where, if the consultants or the consultants in this, or oncologists, understand more about what are the possible causes for this, because it may be proactively people can start looking at things that they can do in their life, whether it's adjustments they can make in their life, in order to prevent ovarian cancer down the line. I don't know whether that's possible, or if anyone mentioned anything. Is it something you do through, just using some examples because my knowledge is limited in this area? Is it something you do through food or exercise or well-being? I'm just wondering, because like you say, you're very healthy. I mean, I'm just wondering whether there was something out there that you've learned from
Well, with oncology, so I asked, how long has it been growing? How long did I have it? And the answer is, we don't know. I asked what caused it, and the answer is, we don't know. I said, is there any kind of thought process? Like, is there anything that could have caused it? We don't know. I live in the area next to Grenfell Tower, and I was on, I don't know, that is a tower that burnt down.
Yes.
Yeah.
That in West London, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was there on the day, on the day and the following weeks, helping out. So my thought was, like, with all the smoke and the smog, and we saw, there was lots of debris on the ground and stuff that was like charcoal. I was like, is that something that could have caused it? They're like, we don't know. So you're left, like, from the oncology point of view, that there is no answers to that question. And then there's, okay, where do you go and look for answers? Like, I'm someone who's curious, so I go and look for answers elsewhere. And then you get the alternative side or holistic side of medicine. And, then you start looking at emotional stuff, looking at diet, looking at spiritual stuff. And those things are not accepted by oncology. So I don't talk to my oncologist about any of that side. But it's something there, then you start to investigate and explore. So that's an exploration. Yeah, that's an exploration. Those kind of sides I'm exploring, and definitely I'm doing the diet. I think I have to give it all I've got. I've got to give everything a go.
Throw signs that you throw everything that you come across to survive, really, isn't it? I don't know if that's the right terminology, but yeah, that's what I read from it, from what you're saying.
Yeah, I think if we take the stand of what can I be responsible for in my life, I don't need to blame or judge myself for having cancer at all. Like, that's not the aim. But if I was able to take responsibility for it, where could I look at? What could I look at? And the word disease, if you break it down, is dis, and ease. So it's like an unease somewhere in the body. So if I look at it that way, I'm like, okay, where have I been not true to myself? And like I said, being sick is like a time to reflect. And I think that's where what I reflected on is, like, where have I not been true to myself? And in society, we can be untrue to ourselves in so many ways,
Yeah, very true. I agree with that. Yeah. absolutely.
So yeah, so that's part of the journey, let's say.
Now, coming back to challenges, what kind of challenges have you faced, and what kind of tools have you used that help you with in those times? You mentioned some before. You mentioned in terms of Macmillan's pods. You mentioned, and also the other thing is cancer research.
Wards, yeah. So there's like within so every chemo ward, well, the chemo wards I have been on, they will always have a Macmillan pod there, and they give a lot of support. And they actually do courses as well, like creative writing course or stress management course. There's something else called Maggie Centers, which I've only just discovered, which are amazing.
Maggie Centers, what are those?
So there's one or two in London and a few. I think there's about 6 in the country, but they're all designed by different architects. So when you walk in, so there's one in Charing Cross Hospital, and you walk in and it's just a beautiful feeling. And then you have somebody who greets you. They have an area where you can just go for you and your friends and your family. Obviously, before COVID, people could just go there and sit there and lounge and read or discuss. And there's some, people around that you can talk to, and some courses, like they'll do like courses for people who are going through cancer. It might be yoga, it might be walking, it might be art, it might be head wraps, something like that.
And the other thing, element of support is always important is friends and family. And how was that look like for you? And you mentioned how much support you've been getting. So is it possible to give an insight into what that looks like for you and how important that is for you as well?
It meant everything. It means everything. It meant everything. It means everything. It is everything to me. I think I know that other people, I feel so much. I feel like once I feel that I want to be able to give back to other people that don't have as much support that I have had, because it's just the most valuable thing that I can say that this journey has highlighted, that support and community is everything. Family, friends, community, that is us, that is society, that is what being human is about, having that connection.
Because support can encompass so many things. What are the things that you've taken away and you go, I use this just to make to illustrate what I'm trying to say in terms of the question is like, I look at it as soul food, is that when you have that meal, you feel so full inside. And when you have that support, what is that? Does that look like that makes you so filled inside?
So what does it look like in real life, like in practicality?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So from the very beginning, like when I came out of hospital, obviously it all happened so fast. Not many people knew I had gone into hospital, but then I do have a wide community of friends. So my sister, my best friend, they were the ones who told people what had happened. So obviously I was just coming out of hospital, and for me to repeat what had happened to me 10, 20 times, yeah. I didn't keep repeating, I have cancer, because that was not that's not how I wanted to program my mind. So my sister, my friends, one of my best friends, they just took a whole list of people each, and they were the ones who phoned them and let them know and tell them, so that I didn't have to repeat it. Whilst I was recovering from chemo and the operation, my sister would meet my friends at the door, and she would talk to them first and tell them, we want Shweea in a positive attitude. And, she was kind of like screening them before they came to see me. So that we could make the best of our time together. My mum, my sister, and my dad as well would make sure that I was provided for in any way they could. My sister would wake up in the mornings, make me my breakfast, bring me my lunch. I was staying in her house because my house has 100 stairs and I was not going to be allowed out of hospital to come home. I had to move into my sister's from the hospital, which, obviously she accommodated without notice and all that kind of stuff. So all the practical side of things, just having someone to hold your arm whilst you're trying to walk, trying to get out of bed. Like I couldn't even get out of bed on my own in the beginning. And then moving on from there, like talking to friends and losing your hair, and friends that will, make you feel better. And then from there, people, I had another friend who is a chef, and she was cooking food for us.
Wow.
That's just amazing. and cooking healthy food. So it was food that I trusted as well. And then more like further down the line, one of the drugs that oncology said would be like the best thing for me was something that was not available on the NHS. So, and it's extremely expensive. It was £3,000 per administration, and I had to have it every 2 weeks. And there was no way we could afford that. So that's like £50,000 for the year. And my sister set up a GoFundMe page, and wow, that, like, again, I'm going to cry every time I think about it, because just friends, family, and then friends of friends, and people in my wider community of dance, people in my wider community of self-development, and strangers all contributed to the GoFundMe page.
Oh, amazing.
And you know, at first I felt so shy to put something out there. I never thought I would be this person with a bald head on a GoFundMe page.
Yeah.
And it's very humbling, because at first it feels like charity, and it felt weird. But then you just realize that everyone is literally contributing to your life, like literally to keep me here on this planet. And it just, I get emotional about it every time. It's just such a beautiful thing. So, I mean, that's the power of community and humans, human nature, just people being kind and generous in whatever way they can be.
I was just thinking about that very much about the human aspect, and how, you know, when in situations we see the best of human beings like this, situations like this. And first of all, what is your GoFundMe page? We need to keep this going.
Oh, thank you. It's GoFundMe. I don't actually, right now I can't remember. I'm so emotional.
Send me the link afterward. I'll make sure that when this podcast goes out, the link goes out with it, because you know, it's fantastic what people are doing, and I think, in my personal opinion, it needs to continue.
Thank you. I'll send you the link afterwards. Thank you. And and just this week, actually, my best friend, she cut her hair to raise money. She's grown her hair like all her life. She's always had, you know, like this amazing, beautiful, wonderful hair, and she cut it, and it was a surprise. And I didn't know she was going to do it, and she's cut it really, really short, and she looks amazing. But she did that in solidarity and to raise money. So what forum is she using to raise money? Because that needs also to be shared. Is it the same GoFundMe page, or is it a different page as well? Because at this point in time we were going to do events, because I have a lot of friends who are dancers and stuff. So we were going to try and do like an event, but obviously with COVID, everything has changed. So I think she just decided to do that on Facebook, like a Facebook Fund Me thing, a Facebook.
Please share the link as well, that one.
Yeah. Okay. So I just feel like I feel blessed every single day, because I have friends, I have family, and every single day I wake up and I'm like, today is a new blessing. I choose life, and I just feel so grateful.
You know, what can I say? You know, it sounds like I'm heartened by the fact that the community you talk about, and I talk about community in terms of friends, your family, and the wider community who are supportive, have come together to support what is really about life and continuation of life, which is such a wonderful thing to hear about. And you know, I have no words. It's just the emotion that really feels good from my perspective.
Yeah, and I think that is like in the face of death, as we perceive it, as most people perceive cancer. You know, there is the other side. The flip side of it is life is amazing.
It is. Even for the ups and downs and that you come across, it almost takes, even listening to you, it just makes you reevaluate or think about those moments and think, actually, there's more to it than just concentrating on the moments that you have that might bring you down, but there's more to it than that. And making the best use of what you have and the time that you have. Really, that's the message I'm taking away from this. It's a message I've understood before, but you kind of bring it to light by just listening to your story.
Thank you. Well, I have another little synchronicity of events that led me talking to a lady who I thought I didn't know, but anyway, it turns out that we knew each other. We had participated in a show together in the past. But she had a experience where she actually had drowned and then got pumped back to life.
Whoa.
But in the moment that she had passed away, like in those moments, basically, she said, there's no judgment and there's no blame, there's no anything. It's pure and total acceptance and unconditional love. And she said that, the only question is how much have you loved? So in speaking to what you just said, I'm like, this has been COVID times as well. Like, I feel like I should be doing more, but actually healing, I have to rest. Like so what do I do right now? I should be productive with my life. I want to do more, but actually to heal, I need to relax and rest. So it's actually about not doing anything, but actually it's about being. And who are you being? Who are you being when you're with that person or talking to this person?
A couple of things I'm taking away from that: investing in yourself, very important, and enjoying the moment, being present in that moment. That's what I'm learning. That's what I'm taking. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And how much have you loved? Like, that's where being kind comes in as well, because sometimes I feel like I'm not being the most loving person I can be to my, to the person I'm talking to or to the person I'm spending time with. But, as long as we catch that and like, oh, actually, I want to be more loving towards this person.
Wow, imagine if the whole world was like that. We'd definitely be living in a different world, I would imagine. The other thing I want to cover here is advice over the period of time. I'm sure, as a community, people that you have around you, what's been the things that you picked up, and what sort of advice that you've been given that you think this is really good advice?
Let's see. Well, I think this was one that what I just spoke about. The lady saying, "Have you loved enough?" Like that's the only question.
Okay.
That's definitely something. It's so like on every part of this journey, there's just different phases. So when it comes to one solid piece of advice,
A couple of examples, things that come to mind. It doesn't have to be just one, but just I'm wondering, curious whether it's something that you've written down or you consider.
That's quite a hard one to answer.
Whether it's through consultants, health and well-being, your supported networks. No, if you haven't got it, don't.
Actually, one thing that has recently come to light and has been really good advice was actually was by a counsellor. So with the oncology, they provided a counsellor, an oncology psychologist actually. And because of COVID, I have been in isolation. And life has been weird, right? So for everyone, for the whole world. But anyway, I realized that I was trying to be like, no, I can do all of this by myself. I can be independent. I can clean, and then actually I have to also respect the fact that I'm healing. So he's like, you need help. And I was like, but I don't want to be asking my family to do more than they're already doing. They're doing so much. But he was like, crowd resourcing. You have a community of people around you. Ask for that help. And I'm like, everyone's already helping me with the GoFundMe and everything. He said, no, I mean crowd resourcing, meaning physically just find out if people are free and how they can help you to do things like, you do need to sleep, you do need to relax and rest. If you can't manage the cleaning, ask someone to come and clean. So it's like, it's being humble enough to be able to ask and receive help.
Wow, I say wow because I've never heard that term, first of all, and it's such an interesting concept where, you kind of, it's difficult depending on the type of person that you are, because maybe I've misunderstood you here, but what I'm reading is that you're quite an independent person. Is that right?
Yes, very.
And for an independent person to reach out to other people to say, oh, I need your help, that can be quite difficult, but ultimately it helps in that, in sustaining yourself and making sure that you're in the best place to actually fight this cancer.
Yeah, really and truly, it's not just me fighting for it. It literally does, whatever that saying is, like, takes a village. Like, he was suggesting if you're part of a church, just ask in the church. Lots of people want to volunteer. People want to give their time. People want to be helpful. And it also goes for my friends. Actually, with the GoFundMe page, it was a huge relief for so many friends because they were like, we want to help, but we just don't know how to help. And we know that you're independent, so we don't want to ask you either because if you haven't asked, we don't want to insult you, like if you got offended or anything. So actually the GoFundMe was a huge way for lots of people to help. Another friend of mine, she's like, Shweea, you don't ask anything of us, but we want to help. So please, 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 so it's just, it's learning to ask for that help and receive that help.
Two things came to mind while you're speaking there. One is you mentioned COVID, and I just wanted to touch upon how that has impacted you and how that changed your mindset. And the other thing is about, again, how do those who surround you reach out to you in a way that makes it easy for you to say, as an independent person, I'm using that as an example, as an independent person, this is what I need, and making that conversation much more easier.
So COVID was, it took all of us by surprise, and it came suddenly, and we were all like, what the hell has just happened? I've just woken up in a Netflix series, like, seriously.
There's probably a series out there about COVID. I'm sure Netflix done something.
Yeah. But I was like, hey. So, but on the other side, because I've been going through chemotherapy, I've always had to be careful, like, check, have you got a cold? Has anyone in your family got a cold? Have you got any symptoms? Because I just cannot be exposed to it. So suddenly with COVID, the whole world just joined me. I didn't have to explain myself anymore. But I went into isolation because at the beginning, my sister, my mum, I've been staying at my sister's or my mum's, and they were still working at the beginning. So my mum moved up to my sister's, and I stayed at my mum's by myself for the first time since I've been ill. And I was like, yes, because I've been patient for so long, I'm finally going to have my own time and space to myself and show to the world that show to my family I can be independent, because they've been looking after me for the last year and a half, which has been amazing. But it was something that I actually looked forward to. So for the first couple of months, it was amazing. And then it just became really hard work. And, that's where Zoom came into its own. We had Zoom parties online with my friends, like when it's their birthdays, or conversations where I could see people through Zoom. Yeah, because I took the isolation really seriously, because I was getting all the texts from the NHS and, telling me to be absolute. I didn't go out for the first 2 months. So it was a really strange place to be in, because I was suddenly like, gosh, and also the other thing was, will they continue chemo treatment during this time? Because it was dangerous to go into hospitals. So suddenly it became really scary to go to the hospital. And then I ended up going on my bicycle, because I thought that would be the safest way to go, rather than go on public transport. I don't drive, or go in a car with someone else. So it was very, very, very strange. It kind of brought this very scary element into being out in the world. And then I was suddenly like, what if I die whilst I'm here alone at home during this time? Like, is this life? Like, how do we live life, like, amazingly every single day to the fullest during COVID times? And then I was like, but this is history. This is part of the human experience. This is part of history. Like, I'm living through history, and this is why I want to live to 100, because I want to see the span of a century. And this is part of it. So then I was like, okay, this is just part of the experience, and it's crazy, but this is it. So yeah, COVID has been a strange time, but also, over the last month or so, we've all eased up a little bit, which has been amazing. And it's been wonderful to see people again and go for socially distanced walks and stuff like that. So that's the COVID. And I can't remember the second part of your question.
The second part is more looking at how do people who are around you, friends, family, how do they have that conversation to say, I want to help? What kind of things can they do? That kind of thing. Because I had a conversation about depression, and and the most difficult thing about that was that when I say the most difficult thing from someone looking in is that it's more, how do you talk to someone in a way that you don't make the situation worse, but you also contribute positively to it. And it's having that same mindset with cancer, is that how does someone reach out to you or say contribute without feeling that being intrusive? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think how to have that conversation. Yeah. In the very beginning, it was my sister, like I had my sister, she became kind of like my spokesperson in the very beginning. And she actually asked me, she said, can you just write out a list of things that people can give to you? And so that was the first stage of how people were helping. And it was simple things like organic hair shampoo, or like suddenly I wanted everything organic and instead of all the normal products. So it was simple things like organic toothpaste, or and those things helped a lot. And then so that was, my sister was kind of being the go-between between me and my friends. But further on, it was some friends just said, look, what do you need? Like, I want to be here for you, and what do you need? They just said it simply like that, really.
And it's just simple as that. It's not anything more complicated. What do you need? And it's just reaching out in that sense. Yeah. And that's a comfortable thing.
Yeah. It was just simple as, if you need to go to the wig shop, let me drive you. And I guess they just let me know, because everyone's carrying on with their life. Everyone has a busy life. We live in London. Life is busy. Yeah. And so my concern with asking for help is, people that are dropping kids off at school or going to work and they don't have time. But if they said to you, look, Shweea, I'm free on this day. Would you need anything? This is what I can do for you. That was easier for me to go, okay, well, that would be nice. Let's go for a drive, or let's do this.
That's interesting, because there's your perspective of this is how people's lives are, and there's their perspective of how can we be helped, how can we help without being intrusive. And somehow I sense it's a bit of that perception that sometimes that a lot might be lost because we perceive certain situations might not be the actual reality until we have those conversations.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say, just always say, if I was now looking to help someone else, I would just be, look, I'm here for you in any way that you need. And specifically, these are my times that I'm free, and just let me know what it is that you need and listen to what they need. Because it might just be that they want to talk. It might just be that they need something practical but don't want to talk. And they feel bad about asking you, can you just drop me off this? But I'm not going to talk to you because I just need to rest. So there's those kind of elements. Just like whatever you need, I can be here for you. I can give you that and stay and chat and have a cup of tea, or I can just drop that off and carry on my way. Just give those kind of options.
The other thing I want to cover here is that throughout this, what have you learned about yourself and what are you most proud of? Like that, when people say, "Oh, that means yeah," and then to think.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I guess resilience. I think I have managed to keep a very buoyant mindset, and that's not to ignore like the situation. There's like looking at the what so. The what so is I have cancer cells. They've overproduced in my body, and that's not a good thing. And I need to get rid of them to live. So that's the what so. Because it's not that I'm so positive that I'm just not, that I'm ignoring and pretending that things are not happening. But I have to say, I'm proud that I've used all the tools that life has given me, and to keep me going. Like I don't really feel that I've had days where I'm so down that I feel like the mindset really does keep me going. Like I just feel so blessed. I feel like I think that's the positive in me. I see the good in the world. I see the good in situations. I see the good in people. I see the good in the circumstances. And I think that's what keeps me going, keeps me happy, keeps me smiling.
What I'm reading from that is just a positive mindset. You talk about resilience and being buoyant, and these all lends itself to that positive mindset, really, because you haven't given up. You're still fighting for that 100 figure that you've already aspired to live to.
Yeah. I'm still here, and I'm still playing on this word of fighting. Like, I'm not sure. I'm still working that one out for myself. Am I fighting for my life, or am I asking my body to harmonize so that it can just be in balance and equilibrium?
Oh, interesting. So how do you see the differences in between them?
Well, like if I'm fighting, like
Yeah.
that means, am I attacking? Am I defending? Am I stressed? But if I'm actually just relaxing and letting my body heal, is it like finding the equilibrium and the balance to be able to live in this world in harmony rather than in.
Oh, goes back to the point that you were making earlier, about this.
Yeah, like what happens in the external world and happens in the internal world, whether that be physically in my body or spiritually or emotionally, or and that's part of like reflecting on life and life experiences and all of those things as well. So yeah, balancing the two things.
I got some questions here that hopefully will draw out some interesting things about yourself as well, some other things that we probably haven't touched upon. So, how would those close to you describe? So we talked about things that how you think about yourself, but how do you think other people would describe you without using the same words as resilience, buoyancy?
Mhm.
How would you say they would describe you? Your friends, your sister?
I don't know. You're gonna have to ask them.
They're not here
Yeah.
for this moment in time. What would you think they would say about you?
Oh, I don't know. I think they would just say, yeah, I think they say I'm positive.
Yeah,
With this experience, everyone says, "Oh, you're so strong, you're so courageous,
yeah.
so inspiring." Those words come to me a lot,
Mm.
and I'm like, "Well, you would be too if it was you in this situation." It's just the way it is.
Yeah,
So yeah, my friends, they say those things right now about
that's
me.
nice. That's
Yeah, which is amazing. Family, maybe it would be a bit different because.
You talked about that when you argue with your sister and stuff. So would you think that would how would you think she would describe you? Because you mentioned that a lot through this
Right. Well, I think what it is, I think where the clash comes there is that my sister is just wants to do the most she can for me, the best that she can for me.
Mhm.
She wants to protect me in every single way that she can,
Oh,
and and because we're sisters and because we spend time together and because there will be times when I react to like feeling. I will read it as feeling, when someone's overprotective, I feel more like I'm being a bit controlled, like she's thinking for me or anticipating for me or something like that. But it just comes from the best of intentions. And
I understand
yeah.
that perfectly. Your best intention, her best intentions, can possibly make you feel in a certain way.
And also maybe we just show our emotions. Maybe I just show my emotions more with my family than I do, with friends, because we don't spend as much time with them. So I'm not going to react in the same way. And so with my sister, because she's always going to be there no matter what I do.
She's not going to run away when she sees emotions. She's gonna...
Yeah, she's the one person that I can react with. So she's seen me in my times when I have cried or felt down or felt nervous or distressed, like the first time I'm going to chemo, or the first time I'm going out and I was allergic to the sun because of the symptoms of the chemo, and I got so distressed about like not being able to be out in the summer in the summertime. So in those moments when I felt distressed, she's been there. So
the other thing is that we talked about, we mentioned a little bit about healthy eating, exercise. Has that played a role? And if so, what sort of things are the things that you're eating things that you enjoy and you think, oh man, I was not having this before, but now I have a different perspective, because you were always like you say, I think you said you're vegetarian of all your life. So is there anything that has been introduced as part of this process that you thought, okay, really, this is really, really nice?
Well, I mean, I would say that I've been vegetarian all my life, so that sounds like I've been healthy all my life, and I thought it was.
Yeah.
But I was also always on the go, like hardly ever at home. So it meant that I would be eating on the go or eating out a lot. And a realization now that I'm eating everything freshly cooked, I'm eating mostly organic, how much processed food is full of sugar and salt and fat. Even healthy processed food, even now, everything is called plant-based, which is amazing from one
I'm a big fan.
perspective.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
But anything that's mass produced and processed is always going to have so many additives. And most of the time, lots of stuff still, healthy stuff still has sugar added and salt added to it. And yeah, I have given up sugar. So, that thought of going to the cafe and having some cake or croissant with your friends is not the same when I go out and I'm like, oh, it's hard to go out because you're constantly looking at the ingredients. Then it makes you feel like you're being really fussy. But I feel that from the alternative point of view and nutritionist point of view or whatever, not necessarily oncology point of view, we know, well, even from an oncology point, we know that cancer cells eat sugar. So I've decided just to cut sugar from my diet. And I substitute that with lots of fresh fruits. And
your favorite fruit?
My favorite, I love papaya.
Papaya. That's way out there. So you don't get that often, do you?
No. I'm craving some papaya right now. That's why it's straight to my mind. Yeah, I love papaya. I love the tropical fruits. I love mango. Yeah. And more recently, actually, because I've been looking further and further into diet and cancer, specifically cancer diets, I've given up salt. And that actually was extremely hard. That was harder for me than the sugar.
I'm addicted to sugar. So am I right in calling it addiction, or is it just you had a craving for it? I'm not sure how best to describe your
with sugar, they say the withdrawal from sugar is like trying to withdraw from cocaine. They say, yeah.
I was giving. It's very difficult. That's all I know.
Yeah, they call in some fields of nutrition, they will say that sugar is a drug. So yeah. But I think that I was eating such a balanced diet that my body didn't actually crave the sugar. And I think salt, I'd never really thought about salt. So withdrawing from salt, I'm just like, your taste buds has to get really, get used to food without salt. And so I'm still on that stage at the moment where I'm adjusting to, I used to love snacking on crisps with salt, obviously. Yeah, so I'm just, and fats, I'd love, even if healthy fats, like I'm not even having olive oil at the moment. So, which I think of as healthy, which I would put on top maybe of a salad, on top of tomato sauce, pastas. So yeah, having your pasta without cheese and without salt and without oil, like, okay.
Is that your favorite go-to thing if you're in a rush or something like that?
Yeah, pasta was definitely top of the things there. But now I'm eating a lot of, who knew, baked potatoes are supposed to be, baked potatoes are supposedly very healthy. It's just the way we cook them, which is always with fat and salt.
Do you know one thing I discovered? You talk about baked potatoes, sweet potatoes. I don't know if you can have.
Delicious, yeah.
Yeah, very nice as well.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a discovery of very, I would say, going back to basics for cooking, which is really nice. I feel like I'm in an old-fashioned.
It's simple.
Yeah, cooking. I feel like I'm in an old-fashioned cooking show. I feel like every time I'm in the kitchen, I feel like I'm in the like a Victorian house. I used to have servants, and all the cooking would be so elaborate because you're literally making everything from fresh.
Yeah, and that tastes better with fresh products as well.
Yeah.
Just touching upon a couple of things here. What about exercise? Is that something that you can do, or it's not something that's recommended?
Again, there's different fields. Like some people just say, be really gentle with yourself and let your body relax, because that's where the healing would take place. Others are like, your body needs oxygen because the cancer cells steal all the oxygen, so keep moving. And as a dancer, that's the one that I have been, more akin to. And so it's a balance. I think everything is a balance. I think it's definitely need to make sure I go for a walk each day to keep the body and the lymphatic system moving. I have something called a rebounder, which is like a mini trampoline for one person, which I bounce up and down on. And that's supposed to also be good for your lymphatic system. Your lymphatic system cleans all the sludge and toxins in your body. Mm-hmm. So that's important. And I do yoga to keep my body stretching because with the operations, I have a lot of scar tissue and I can feel it and I don't want it to distort my body and pull me in. So I make sure I keep moving and stretching. So for me, exercise and movement is important. And obviously that comes as a ex-dancer. So that's something I definitely...
Ex-dancer? Does it mean you're giving up dance?
It doesn't mean that I've given up dance. No, that was... Thank you for picking me up. I actually had a couple of... I actually have a project to do with dance and coming out. I'm in the creation of that now with some of my ex-students from the primary school. So that's lovely. So I see them on Zoom and online and they're helping me create a dance that I want to put out on social media for anyone going through chemo to do so that it can like keep their spirits lifted and keep positive and hopeful. So that's something I'm looking forward to. And that's something that I'm calling Dance Create Your Life. So it's like, yeah, we get to create through dance how we're going to feel and experience life.
And where do people go to see this? Is it a website or is it Facebook or Instagram?
Well, it's in creation at the moment. So I have bought a domain name for the website. So that will be dancecreateyourlife.com. But there's nothing there yet. So like I say, that's in creation. So hopefully that will be out. I'll have something that will be out in the next month or so.
So the other things I was curious about, best book you've read.
Ooh.
That's a good sound.
So Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's somebody who was a chiropractor who was doing a triathlon and broke his spine and visualized his spine back to health when he was told that he should be on the operating table and he will never walk, probably wouldn't walk again. And he managed to do that within 6 weeks. And so his book is all about, creating your experience through visualizing your future self and that means that you get to live into your future as that person. So right now that means that, you're able to live as if you are that person in the future. So right now I can live as my healthy self. I can feel what I feel like as my healthy self in that future who's cancer free.
Wow,
does that make sense?
Very powerful tool, visualization.
Yeah. So Dr. Joe Dispenza, that's one of the people that I'm listening to a lot, and I have his books, but I listen to audiobooks more at the moment.
Fantastic. Any other ones that you could think of, or this is the main one?
That's one of I've been listening to who else? Some Eckhart. I never say his name right. Eckhart Tolle. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. A New Earth, I think, is the book I've just been listening to. That's been really interesting. For food and diet, I really found Medical Medium interesting, Anthony Williams, and I found it most accessible on Instagram because you can get to see different recipes on there really easily and why certain foods are really healthy for you. And you get to see testimonials of people who have maybe followed his way of thinking. I just love researching and looking at lots of different modalities and then seeing what is right for myself. And that's what I'd encourage other people to do. Look at different modalities and see what suits you and what fits with you. And, if there's something you're looking to change, then how are you going to change that and fit it into your lifestyle?
And the other thing you shared before was, is it Gerson therapy? Is that?
So Gerson therapy is something is something I'm looking at now. And I think from Gerson point of view, I'm late into bringing it into my protocol, let's say. I think they would have advised that I did this much earlier because they, like I said, there's oncology, which believes in chemotherapy, and then there's another side of holistic therapies that believe that chemotherapy is not really that effective. So I think Gerson is one of those where they focus on using diet to detox your cells. And they talk a lot of, when you read it, there's a lot of biology, like basically you want to get rid of all the sodium of your cells and fill it with potassium. Well, not too much potassium, but there's this whole chemical balance through diet and detoxing your cells and flooding your body with lots of minerals and enzymes so it can heal itself, basically. So there's a whole regime that goes with that. So I started to do that alongside my chemotherapy, but the person I'm working with, the Gerson therapist I'm working with, is making sure that it's a protocol that won't cancel the chemotherapy. So we have the chemotherapy working and the Gerson therapy is to support my body through the chemo so that my body can deal with all the toxins that the chemo does have as part of its side effects.
I'll share the link in case people are interested.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because you shared that link with me earlier. The other thing I'm going to ask you is, I'm curious about your favorite thing to do and your favorite place in London, since you're a Londoner.
I think we're so blessed in London to have parks. Like, I think that's what makes London an amazing city, because we have such beautiful parks, and that's where we can go and escape from the busyness of everything. I love London in general, like, because anything you can think of, you can find in London. But my favorite place right now definitely right now is gardens. I have a friend, she lives around the corner from me, and she has access to a communal garden. So it's like a mini park, and she's like, come around whenever you want. So I feel so blessed again that I can just walk around the corner and sit in a green space.
And what brings you joy and a sense of hope from what would you say?
It's my friends. I just talk to my friends. Actually, one exercise I did with them once was I just said, if you can just write me out something we're going to do together in the future. And and I put it and I put everything that they texted. It was a text, and so I typed it out and written each person's, like, some things are like really simple, like, oh, we're going to go and have a picnic in Hampstead Heath, and it's going to be me, you, and so, and we're just going to talk about, laugh about when we were at school, and we're going to, something really simple like that. And then other people are like, oh, we're going to go and travel, we're going to go to Brazil, we're going to go and dance, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And so all these different texts, I've just put them on their own page with a blank page next to it. And so when we fulfill it, I will be taking pictures in those moments, and they will go back. Those pictures will go next to the text that they wrote to me. And it's fun. So I just keep living into this future reality, and that future reality is now because it's with my friends now, and we can talk about it and smile about it. And they are right now practically helping me by cooking food or phoning me just to make sure that I'm not feeling lonely in isolation, all of these things. So the love that they're giving me now is what is keeping me going forward.
Perfect. And it's really good to hear that as well. So in terms of now pretty much coming to the end of this, and I was thinking about things that you can share in terms of what you're doing, in terms of if you've got contacts, any projects that you're working on, anything like that you would like to share with people in general.
Yeah. The one thing I don't have it ready, like we just spoke about, was the website. So the dance, I want it to be something that goes viral on social media. So it will be a dance that everyone can join in with, and they can just repost it. So it might be that the idea is that other chemo patients will do it, so they have fun with it, and they might do it with their family and then record themselves and post it. Or they might do it with their nurse, their chemo nurse, and have fun and record it and post it. Or it might be that a community of people might say, oh, we want to do it, and we're just going to do it for fun, and this is in support of everyone who's going through cancer, and they record it and they just go and do it, put it on social media. So there'll be a hashtag of Dance Create Your Life, and when that is up and running, I would love everyone to join in with that. Share
that information when it's available, and I'll share it as well. Make sure that's disseminated. So there is that. How do people get in contact? Are you comfortable people get in contact with you, or how? And if so, how do they reach out to you?
Yeah, I'll share the links with you, and I think that's the easiest way to go.
Perfect. What else was I curious about? I was curious about. You mentioned early that before I miss out on it, you mentioned about the course that you were doing with Landmark Forum.
Yeah, so the self-development course that I have been talking about, the original one I did is called Landmark Forum, and that's where I got a lot of distinctions and have used a lot of the toolkit that I gained through doing that course. That has helped me through this journey, like I said before, putting meaning to words, taking a stand of if I was responsible for this situation in my life, what can I do about it, or what can I look at? So it was the Landmark Forum, and then they do further courses that go on from that. And I was on their leadership program, and the leadership program literally does turn you inside out. It gets you to look at yourself and become aware of your thoughts, and how you interact with people and the world. And, it doesn't mean that I'm perfect or the people who are doing it are perfect in any way, but it does mean that there's a way of being able to look at your life and instead of feeling like a victim. Yeah, I guess that's what it's helped me not be a victim of cancer. It's helped me just continue living my life without having to be a victim of cancer, really. So that's amazing. And it has given me an amazing community to be part of. I can phone anyone and say, hey, I'm feeling like this. Can you help me? Or can we talk this through? And because we have the same language from, the same kind of way of thinking, the same language, it's easy just to be able to go, hey, if you're feeling like this, what does it mean? But basically, it just gets you to look at life and yourself and how you interact with the world and who you are being with the world.
Shweea, thank you very much for your time today. Is there anything else you want to say or add?
And I just want to say thank you for having me here on Nifty Conversations. First time I've ever done a podcast. And I just want to say thank you for having my voice be heard. And I hope that people can gain something from it and have some takeaways for themselves. That's all.
I can't say how much I will be taking away from this conversation from the point of view that you've offered so much detail, so many practical steps. I'm definitely going to, I looked at the course earlier, the Landmark Reform course. It looked very interesting. I actually subscribed to get some more material. I think they can send you out some information. So, and I also asked them to call me. So if I've got more in-depth questions, I can ask on those calls. So appreciate the knowledge that you've shared, the information you've shared, and also your GoFundMe site. Please do send me that information today. It's a wonderful cause, and it's definitely